So good morning and welcome for joining the session today. I'm quite excited to be diving into the topic what I'll be covering. We'll be showcasing how SurveyMonkey has sharpened the DBT performance and governance with data observability using Monte Carlo. I'm Samiksha Gour, the Senior Data Engineering Manager at SurveyMonkey, and I'm thrilled to kind of guide you through this exciting journey. Let's dive into today's agenda. SurveyMonkey introduction, we are going to start with that, begin with who we are, global leaders in online forms and surveys. And we are also going to explore how we manage the data here in SurveyMonkey, focusing on the holistic view, particularly highlighting the integration of DBT and Monte Carlo. That's going to be the highlight. And I'll also be sharing some of the survey results. That's also I'm quite excited about to share with you all. And from there, we'll dive into some of the challenges, problems, pain points, what we have been facing at our end, and how did all these issues manifest, and the strategies we used in order to resolve it. And finally, we will be discussing about the key takeaways and the next steps moving forward. So SurveyMonkey, who we are? Well, we are the leaders of global online forms and surveys. And with over 25 years of experience, we have helped organizations in all sizes, from startups to Fortune 500 companies, answering about close to 88 billion questions. I hope I'm getting that number right. That's right. We are the go-to for more than 3,000 organizations, looking to get insights on their customers, employees, and products, which means we are processing a lot of data. We are collecting and processing a lot of data. Now, here's the deal. We want to make smarter business decisions, right? So we need to find out what we don't know, and our platform helps you do that. Ask, listen, and act. Transform your customer insights into valuable actionable strategies. The real magic happens beyond the survey results. So that's what I'll be covering. Actually, I'll be showing one of the examples which I have kind of used this platform in the data engineering world and how it has impacted my actionable strategies as well. So the real value comes out of those. So by integrating surveys results into the systems, which most of our customers are currently doing, they're using the SurveyMonkey APIs connecting into their systems, their answers to the surveys and the responses what they're kind of receiving, they are helping with those responses. They are triggering their workflows within the systems, making sure whether that particular campaigns or those particular creatives are working or not. So that's kind of making and helping them take massive strides in terms of business strategies. So that's where we kind of come in. We don't just provide answers to your surveys, but we also help you take actionable insights to it. So let's begin with that. Let's delve into how does the landscape look like here in SurveyMonkey. It's kind of a comprehensive setup. So I'm going to quickly walk you through this, and then we're going to have much more interesting slides moving forward. So our data, we connect to more than 25 different data sources. When I say data sources, those are different applications. We use Snowflake Enterprise Edition as our cloud data warehousing platform. We bring in the data from the various data sources using ingestion tools like Fivetran. We build our custom ETL pipelines to get in the data. And then we use DBT, of course, to transform, tailor all the customer feedback, make it more meaningful, and provision it into the layers which can be consumed by our business domains, which is marketing, product, finance, and many more. And meanwhile, we are also trying to use some additional tools like Airflow to do our orchestration, Monte Carlo, of course, which is our partner in the data observability. And we are also trying to use PD alerts. I'll tell you how the Slack alerts are kind of helping us out in the upcoming slides as well. If you look at the DBT footprints, we have about close to 600 models currently running, and 2,000 test cases right now, which are growing much more as we speak, and connection to about close to 900 data sources. All this process is currently closely being maintained in terms of monitoring the data quality and also optimizing the performances. So let's take a step back. Let's explore how this journey actually began. How did the governance and data quality came into picture, the first thing to begin with. Like many organizations, we started building the models. Our focus was, let's get the data right, let's transform the data and hand it over to the business users. The more emphasis was given on the availability of the data so that the users can focus on making business decisions rather than questioning the quality of the data, which was what we were dealing with earlier as well. So the priority was more to make sure that focus on your business decisions, not on the quality of the data. That is something which we are taking care of. And then it began that we started facing challenges from different levels and different teams. I showcased a couple of challenges over here to give you the flavor what we were trying to deal with over here. So for example, executive concern. Can I have scorecard available before 8 a.m.? Or some of them saying that, can your pipeline run early so that we can start our day with the data on performance? Others were like, why don't you en route the Monte Carlo anomalies or the alerts to our Slack channel so that we are real-time being informed about data being impacted and take decisions based out of it. And some of the interesting sites were like the business domain users coming and telling us, can you help us with the campaign performance? Can your anomalies kind of help us with real-time campaign performance monitoring? And I was like, that's interesting. So if you look at this, we were catering to a wide range of business needs, each of with its own flavor. You see the level and the teams we were trying to deal with, pipeline timing, to scorecard refreshes, to product releases, to data quality. One of the other interesting part was, how do I know which table is going to answer my question? So these were like diverse challenges coming from all across the systems, and this was pushing us to build a system that could address all of them seamlessly. And while doing that, I was thinking, like, are we the only organizations facing these kind of data challenges, or do we have organizations outside, and how are their data teams dealing with it? When I say data teams, it's not just the data engineering and the BI teams. I'm talking about people who live, breathe, eat data, take decisions based on that data. So what we did, and this is where I'm talking about the surveys, we took advantage of our product, which is survey platform, and I sent a very simple survey. What are the challenges you all are currently facing in the data world? And the audience which I targeted today for the survey was just the data audience. I didn't want it to send the surveys to people who've never worked with data, because I know what kind of response I'm going to get to. So I sent it to them, and the kind of survey result I saw was something which was truly surprising for me. Like the top rank was data quality, inconsistency, inaccuracy. We want to make sure that that's the challenge we want to overcome. That came as #1 challenge, and I was honestly not quite surprised by what I got. But what caught me off guard was the second issue, data processing. Honestly, I didn't expect data processing to be in the top 3 ranks of the challenges what I'm talking about today. I thought, who cares about the processing? It's like, just give me the data. I want to make decisions out of it. But no. Processing is a big deal, and that's what surveys are actually helping me in my profile, in my domain, get answers to some real-time challenges the team is facing, and Anak saying that don't go by assumptions, go by data. You assume something, but when you look at the data, it's talking differently. So that's where the power of surveys came into picture, and it was truly enlightening for me, and wanted to share this result with you all as well. So let's talk about my challenges, my team's challenges, organization challenges. What did we do in order to kind of overcome with these challenges and approaches what we took? So here is what the magic happened. We decided to combine Monte Carlo and dbt tools together, which we were already invested in, and we were like, okay, how do we align with our objectives, and how do we leverage these 2 tools together? And Monte Carlo provided us the anomaly. Their ETL pipelines ran, and they provided us the anomaly saying something is not right. We went back and we rerun the ETL pipelines. But in certain situations, we didn't want it to run the ETL pipelines or do the backfill. That's where we took help of dbt. dbt helped us pause and intervene effectively. Like, I am not going to run my ETL pipeline till the data is available. So these were certain scenarios where the integration of these 2 was a game changer for us, because it was brilliant. The way it has enhanced data quality, and I'm going to cover up in the next slides, cost savings, and also improve the performance. So I'm going to cover how this combination has worked in practice in the next slides as well. So let's look at this combination first. I'm not going to cover everything, but I'm definitely going to cover some of the key aspects what we did. 1, we standardized data quality checks. We made dbt tests mandatory for every models. Whatever models we were building in, we were making dbt tests mandatory. That was #1. Second was regular performance. So over the period of time, what we've seen is that the engineers, when they work on a particular project, their goal is, okay, I'm going to solve this problem, move on to the next project. There are hardly few engineers who go back and look at the models, what they have built, and they would like, oh, can I do the performance tuning of this? Can I redefine these models in a different way? That's when what we did was we started introducing the regular performance reviews and optimizations for all the DBT models. We started doing that. And the next thing what we started doing was automating alerts and monitoring it. So one of the key initiatives was to provide proactive notifications to the business users that something is wrong with the data. Don't rely on the scorecards yet. Wait for us to resolve that particular issue. So for example, one of the interesting thing was we were being informed about the anomalies, but they would wait for us to. We were the bottleneck. We were like, we don't want to be the bottleneck. You will be informed if there's an anomaly real time. And the other important part, which most of you all have actually been questioning about, is converting Monte Carlo anomalies into DBT test cases. Why did we do that? And I'm going to give you one of the examples. Monte Carlo anomalies, when they kind of increase in number, people tend to lose interest, or they kind of tend to overlook, like, OK, yeah, this is an anomaly. I'm not going to triage it. What we did was we started introducing DBT tests when it was required, where I do not want my pipeline to get executed. And we did not want to take the ownership of it. We kind of diverted all the monitoring alerts and notifications to the Slack channel, where the business users were also part of it. So my ETL pipelines did not run. The scorecard did not refresh. The management above was like, what happened? I'm like, well, there's a problem in the upstream, and the users have been informed about it. They're going to go correct the data, and then we are going to resume the pipeline. So that's when what happened was my Monte Carlo anomalies went down, and my DBT tests were like working pretty well. And it's not always about pause the pipeline. You just need to know when to pause and when to keep going. So it was just sometimes a warning being sent to them that, hey, please don't mess up with the data because it's impacting our ETL pipelines here. So that was one of the things which most of you were kind of interested in and I wanted to talk about as well. And also, it turned out to be that we partnered with the business users, and they turned out to be more active participants in the data processes rather than asking us why the data is not available. We were like, OK, you are responsible for it, so make sure that you're actively participating in making sure data process is working fine. And finally, it was DBT documentation I'm going to talk about. The DBT Assist is helping us document it. Now, here is the deal, right? I can't go and give to the users 6,000 tables and say, hey, self-service, here's my Snowflake, start querying the data. They were like, how am I going to query 6,000 tables? How do I know which table is going to answer my questions? So in that way, what we did is a combination of DBT Assist, which is helping us speed up the documentation process. And one very critical feature of Monte Carlo is Monte Carlo Asset. So my business users are going to Monte Carlo. They're looking at the anomalies. They're looking at the lineage. And at the same platform, I'm giving them the the asset feature of Monte Carlo, which tells them my product manager would go and just search for, say, feature usage. Now, the search feature, the search results, what comes out is not just the tables that are kind of having that textual word of feature usage, but also the description. So Monte Carlo Asset feature is actually filtering out the results based on the descriptions what you're providing for the tables and columns. And that is where our DBT is helping us speed up the process of DBT Assist and description out there. So that was one of the processes which has helped us and kind of significantly improved the self-service approach as well. So now let's look at the problems we have faced, the strategies we put in place in order to get sure the problems get resolved. Now comes the interesting part, is the impact on the business. With all these measures in place, ensuring that the quality and we are leveraging right tools, we wanted to assess the performance and the outcome, so how it's truly driving the success. So one of the significant business impact was this. We reduced the Snowflake credit usage by impressive 73% for about close to 10,000 credit jobs. So an achievement we proudly showcased this year in Snowflake Summit. You can see it on the YouTube as well. It's kind of streaming there. The key driver to achieve that number, one of the key drivers to achieve that number was the kind of performance monitoring what we were doing at the back end, fixing the queries, merging the queries, go back and redo some of the models, delete the unused models or unused tables what we currently have. Through continuous monitoring, we turned that Snowflake data warehouse into a benchmark for efficiency and performance improvements. This was one bigger impact we had. Second one was, and I wanted to show you all the graph over here, showcasing the problem statement, which I listed down earlier in the previous slides, right? So the first graph over here is kind of showing you the efficiency and the data transformation jobs which we executed over the years using DBT. Now, what you will notice over here is a clear trend of efficiency improvement, right? Somewhere in the second quarter of 2023, this is where we heavily began performance optimization and stability. So despite there was total number of models which were being executed in DBT, which were growing up in number, we never compromised on the job execution time. It remained stable. So this indicated that we had the capacity and appetite to grow more in DBT, right? So during this time, we actually did this. We brought in the marketing analytics media platform in-house, which we were catering to the third party. We brought the whole thing in-house. Imagine the amount of queries we are running, the models we are running, and that's where you see that steep curve out there, but it never impacted my job execution time. And the second graph, parallelly what was happening in Snowflake. Although you see the blue bars over here, those are the number of queries which we were running, and the orange line over here showing the decrease in the cost per credit. So what we were doing is, you can see that post the marketing media in-house when we brought in, the number of queries is like we're running a lot of queries there, but it has not impacted my cost per credit. Because behind the scenes, we were doing all this. We were doing all this multiple performance improvement stuff, and it kind of resulted in a lot better impact, what we never expected, like, to do this, but this was helping us out. There's a next interesting graph I wanted to show you. Remember when I said that I converted Monte Carlo anomalies into DBT test cases? This is exactly the live graph which I'm actually showing you right now. When you see that steep in the Monte Carlo anomaly, that was when we brought in the marketing media platform in-house. Data is new. We have no idea what the data is all about. We never worked with this data before, and we are seeing anomalies. And we were like, OK, we have to do something about it. Every second or third weekend, we had to rerun our whole entire pipeline. And it was an overwhelming mess for my engineers. Like, I can't do that. I don't know what this data is all about. So I said, OK, let's put the DBT test in place so that if the data is not in the right format, or if you're seeing nulls flowing in, at least you get informed. You pause your pipeline right there, and then let the and upstream users correct it, or the business users correct it, and then you can move forward with it. So you can see exactly our DBT test cases increased during that time, and the Monte Carlo anomaly started decreasing as well. So this was one of the representation I wanted to share with you all. So basically, we shifted our move from a reactive to proactive approach, right? We strengthened the overall quality over here, making the system stable. So previous slides were talking about increasing in the data models, DBT data models, but here I wanted to highlight about the hygiene checks, which we always introduce in every quarter. We have certain capacities allocated dedicatedly to do the performance check, hygiene check. So we maintain that regular hygiene check. We track the models. We identify unused tables and models. We merge some of the models. And I'll show you one of the graphs below. I'm sorry I cannot zoom in, but I just took one screenshot of a table when I did the performance monitoring of this, and when I optimized the query, the kind of reduction in the runtime and the Snowflake credit usage you can see right there. You can see the dip over there, and I wanted to showcase that in this graph as well. So this is our final slide, which I wanted to show the impact on the whole entire data thing. I hope it was helpful, because I tried connecting the challenges, the strategies, and the impact together to showcase that if you put the right action strategies in place, you are seeing a great impact on cost savings, on performance, and everything. So what are we going to do? So the key takeaways I just wanted to share, and lesson learned. It was not a very smooth ride. We did have some blips here and there. But here is what we figured out. And since I'm in Vegas, I'm taking this example, that it's like making a great cocktail. You have to get the right combination. Otherwise, things would get messy. So our great cocktail here was Monte Carlo and DBT combination together, which kind of worked in our favor, and it has worked wonders as well. Other lesson learned was stop engaging the stakeholders at the beginning of any project. It was like you kind of introduce new tables. You yourself are not familiar with the tables and the performance, how it's going to work. So do not divert or route those anomalies to the Slack channels where business users are part of it. Take a month. Let the things get stabilized, and then start introducing them so that then they can rely on the data and not fade away with the faith on the data, what they're going to rely on. The other thing was stop running the pipelines. That was one of the learnings which I had, and we figured out, like, we are not going to rerun the pipelines again. We're going to rather pause the pipeline, make sure the data gets corrected, and then we can execute the pipeline moving off. So keeping that in loop, feedback was also another important thing. With the lessons learned over here was like continuously, proactively Monitor your anomalies. Try to convert that into DBT test cases as and when needed. Don't convert all your anomalies into DBT test cases, but take a call. Like, this is important. This is critical. I need to add this check. DBT tests is actually helping us also get into a very good test case scenarios which you have never thought of you could accomplish with this kind of data set or tables. So again, that's another feature I'd like you all to explore. We are exploring as I'm speaking, and we're trying to include more DBT tests use cases as well. So what's next? A whole lot of exciting stuff. We are not just sticking to the same game plan. We are leveling up. First off, we are onboarding new users into our Monte Carlo platform, where they'll be using the asset feature, and they would be trying to query the views, the tables, which would help them take right business insights. Domain feature is one such feature which we are trying to make sure we cover it up. And DBT is really helping us out. It's a great notch documentation, by the way, which DBT produces, and it's working fantastically for us. And every year, keep having the quarterly reviews. That's the next step. Because we need to get a sneak peek on the product roadmap, because it helps you give an insight scoop, which makes it easier for us to align on our current challenges and how we can make sure that the future feature which the product is releasing would be helpful for you. So that was one of the, it kind of helps us in a solid collaboration with the partners, keeps them excited, keeps us excited with all the new product features which are going to come up. And with that, I'm just going to wrap up over here. I hope it was interesting. And I want to kind of have more questions over here in the audiences so that you all can, I mean, if you want me to go back and revisit some of the challenges which I have showcased over here, we can definitely talk about it. So, and finally, again, this is my SurveyMonkey product. Please give me the feedback, because this helps me in the future sessions as well. And if you want to know anything on the SurveyMonkey side, especially how the customers are kind of integrating the survey results and triggering their workflow. And for me, customers, as I said, for me, customers are all the data people who live, work, breathe, eat data. So that has really helped me out. And this was one of the survey results, actually, what I showed you. I took a couple of more survey results on data modeling, on many other stuff, which really helped me take decisions, actionable decisions in my future roadmap. So feel free to chime in if there are any questions on the next steps. Yeah, go ahead.
I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
One was, you showed a graph with the DBT, the one that had your number of models and the average time for your models to execute.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a DBT cloud? Did you get this from DBT cloud as like, is it like an inbuilt report, or did you get
Oh. No. So this was the inbuilt report on DBT Cloud, which, of course, DBT helped me kind of get the graph and to showcase that, because
that's really neat. I actually want to do this.
Yeah, actually, you can ask them, and that's one of the things we have kind of requested for DBT to have it in their future feature usage, that get access to these kind of efficiency trends, which would really help us out. When I placed this request, I had no idea this has happened. And I'm like, wow, it's working. When you see the result, it's quite exciting as well.
If you remember, could you split it across like different folders, different models, different schemas, or is it just one continuous picture?
No, you can split it. You can split it. You can split it across different schemas.
My second question was, you mentioned about performance tuning, like going back and performance tuning your DBT models. Walk me a little bit through like what is the process? Like, does that get covered in quarterly reviews, or is that like an internal?
So every quarter, when we do our quarterly planning, we have certain resource capacities allocated. And initially, we would always focus on these resource capacities to do some marketing project or product project or finance project. That's what I was talking about. Engineers are doing the project, moving on to the next one. But who's going to look at the cost? Who's going to look at, like, OK, he wants the scorecard to be available at 8 a.m. in the morning. And someone says, how about 4 a.m.? How does that sound? I'm like, yeah, doable. I can do it, something I can do it. So that's when I allocated a capacity for just making sure that we can do some performance reviewing. And believe me, it's like this, very simple. Again, Monte Carlo. I went to Monte Carlo. I looked at the performance tab. I selected DBT user as mine. And I just picked up 1 to 2 to 3 models. That's it. I did not take the whole plethora of the items over there. I just picked up, OK, these are the models which are executing a lot and taking a lot of time. Let's try to focus and see what we can do about it. So every quarter, just 2 to 3, and then you can start seeing the results right there. Sometimes you're merging the models. Sometimes you're kind of, introducing the indexing part on the Snowflake. So yeah, that's kind of helping, and helping big time. You can see it through the graph again. This is quite helpful. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you have tests that if they fail, ETL jobs will fail, like circuit breakers. There are a lot of tests. Oh. Okay, there are a lot of tests, and what rules of thumb or just sort of methods do you use to pick which tests stop ETL jobs? Because obviously, stakeholders need data, so you don't want to cancel a pipeline for a minor test.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the examples which most of you would be kind of helping with. So critical data, right? I'll give you one example. Application engineering team. So we rely on log data for the customer journey, for user journeys to track. What did the customer do on the SurveyMonkey website, before sign up, after sign up. But when application engineering team is kind of working on it, they are trying to make some changes on the applications or the product team. It so happens that it kind of changes the logs. So the format in which we are reading the logs, it is a silent error. It doesn't throw any error, but the data goes like null and blanks. And after 4 weeks, you figure out, hey, what happened to this data? I don't see any channel attribution over here. And you're like, oops, 4 weeks gone. I need to go back and then do my backfill, talk to my application engineering team and say, hey, can you please change the format, or can you just undo whatever you have done. Those are the critical things where backfill is like pain. You don't want to go and backfill manually. You don't want to go and run the whole entire ETL pipeline again. So you need to identify where to pause and where you can just send a warning and say, warning is like, say for example, a channel segmentation was not accurately kind of inputted by one of the business users. Like maybe the paid channel, a campaign went to a paid social channel than a paid search channel. That's fine. We give a warning and we say, hey, can you just go back and correct it, because tomorrow's ETL pipeline I'm anyways going to kind of cover up this. So as long as you're able to cover up in the future ETL pipelines what you're going to execute, I don't call it that as critical. But this one, where you have changed the whole log data and I've lost my data, I need to go back and manually backfill stuff. That is something which I'm like, I'm not running my pipeline without that. So it takes some kind of effort there to kind of make a call, which one is anomaly versus which one is test case. Hope I helped you answer that. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, yeah. You know what we call that project as? Project Nighthawk.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I can totally relate to that, especially with marketing analytics. You have so many different platforms. And you mentioned like how the
Facebook versus LinkedIn versus TikTok.
All the ads data and everything, and your test cases have to go up. So especially you mentioned you had this Slack enabled where the source data is not good, and you have like holding stakeholders accountable for that. And especially when you have like marketing analytics, say, I can imagine at least 8 or 9 platforms. So how do you work with stakeholders during those times, especially when you're building this big project in-house? And I can imagine like the source freshness or like the sources data, so the nulls or like junk value coming in. So how do you prioritize for those big projects, and how do you handle, because if they are the blockers for a long time, your pipelines are not running, you don't have reports. So just wanted to know like.
So my experience, I just went blindsided to Project Nighthawk. I was like, marketing, it's interesting. Let me go and look at the campaign performance. And when I started looking at the data, I was like, oh my God, this is not fun. So 1, I did not do it while I was building the project. 2, I started doing it when I started looking at the data and I started looking at the anomalies. I started understanding the data. SurveyMonkey landscape started understanding the data. What does Facebook do, TikTok do? And every platform has their own languages to speak to. And you're like, OK, I need to deal with that. So I didn't do it while I was designing it. I could have if I had the knowledge of, OK, I should have put these checks in places. But when we partner with the business stakeholders, especially when it comes to campaign taxonomy, we have made them responsible for it. You are going to build the campaigns. You're going to follow that campaign taxonomy. And if something goes wrong, based on predefined models and predefined formats, what we have shared with you, you're going to go back and correct it. The one good thing what we have done is we have taken the G sheets, which we have given access to them, because we didn't want it to go all technical with the marketing folks. So we were like, you're happy with G sheet, we are happy with G sheet. So just go make the changes, automatically we'll go and rerun the model. So the next ETL pipeline would kind of then fix that. But for the huge, huge is the log data, which I've spoken about. It takes weeks to kind of get back to, and all the data engineers stopping the work on the high priority projects and working to fix the log data. That's a very bad experience. I don't want anyone to have that, but yeah.
And a follow-up question on that. So building DBT models on top of all these platforms, like what were the challenges for the data engineering team to like build like a clean view tables for the stakeholders to consume?
We went through multiple iterations back and forth, and always starts simple. My formula is start simple, give them what they need first, let them play along with that data, and then start taking the other attributes from the platform like Facebook, like get the creatives, let the ad data set, right? To begin with first, just go with campaigns, their performances, clicks, signups. That's a simple thing. You start laying out the foundation simple and then start building on top of it. And not just that, I started with the marketing domain. I started having a finance group joining my marketing domain and picking the data from the same unified data set. And now we have product team, which is joining the same race and picking from the same data set. So that recon game just before the board meeting has stopped. I have one unified data set catering to all my business needs, and all the business users kind of use the same data set. So that way we are actually not facing a lot of data recon questions, which we used to earlier. Yeah.
Thanks.
How many years or how much time in your journey has it taken you since you adopted DBT and Monte Carlo to get to this level where you're showing us you achieved some level of efficiencies or whatever?
This is when we started DBT, 2021 Q3. People all excited, engineers all excited. I'm going to build models out of DBT, and you see that steep curve right there. And then slowly you start realizing, hey, you're eating up a lot of cost here. Go back and start tuning, performance tuning it. So that's where you can see that somewhere in the last Q3 of 2022, that's when our staff engineers and we all kind of sat together, brainstormed it, and we figured out, like, let's try to do some performance tuning. And when we started doing that, and as I said, I did not know this graph up until this presentation. I just told the DBT folks, just give me the graph. And the moment I saw the graph, I could just tell the story what happened when. And I had no idea that the performance review and tuning would kind of give us that results. And we were able to get the whole marketing analytics platform in-house.
So basically, about 3 years.
About 3 years, and Monte Carlo, about few quarters, like Monte Carlo as well. Like we gave 6 months to Monte Carlo. Because Monte Carlo, when we brought in, we never had this new data being introduced. When the new data got introduced, that's when we started thinking like, okay, I need to fine-tune this a little. So it took good 3 to 6 months.
Okay, and one more question. I heard something about the DBT cost performance optimization dashboards and everything coming in this, which looks very similar to what Monte Carlo is providing you. Have you looked at that?
No, we have not, but I think we would be like enabling that, and we'll be having a look at
Save some money on Monte Carlo,
some money,
maybe.
Yes, definitely. Awesome. Thank you. You have, okay, one last.
In the beginning with the Monte Carlo, instead of did you just enable all the monitors in the Monte Carlo?
No. We just went with a very basic freshness, and those 3 Monte Carlo anomalies which we rely on.
Default.
Then we started introducing custom monitors like country by channel, like how can you see the sign-ups going spike up, spike down. That's when the custom monitors started coming in, and now they have provided a lot of segment-wise as well, where we can group in based on any dimension. But we started like basic to begin with.
I mean, for the assets, you enable all the assets in your data warehouse, or any strategy to prioritize the assets, like instead of enabling everything?
So what we did, and this is where domain came into picture. So we started with the last zone 3 layer, where we provisioned the data to the end users, saying, here you go, neat and clean data, play along with it. They said, no, we want access to all the grains. And we're like, all right. And that's when we strategized it in a way that give your last provision layer, and then enable it from the raw to the process layer and then the provision layer so that they have an end-to-end. Lineage is important because people are actually using lineage.
Yeah.
And nobody is just happy with the dashboard. They want the grain, the access to the grain. So we then later enabled it at all the 3 levels. But then what we did is, if I'm introducing this to my product team, or if I'm introducing this to my experiments and growth team, they don't want to have a look at all the assets. Yes, they want to have a look at the assets, but if they want to work with their data set, that's when domain creation is helping me out. I created domain. I kind of tagged all those relevant tables and views to that domain, and that's how my stakeholders are using it.